This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. Thank you for tuning in. Joined by Amanda Denton from the law firm of PPGMR, which stands for?
Perkins, Piserich, Greathouse, Morgan, and Rankin.
All right, tell Papa Perkins I said hi. Grandpapa Perkins now, I think, so he's been around for a little bit.
That's right.
You guys have expanded into Stuttgart, Arkansas with an office, which is probably not where a lot of companies might look to expand right away, but tell me why Stuttgart?
True. Well, right today we're announcing the opening of this new office, so we're excited about our third location. We're now able to offer comprehensive, complete legal services in Little Rock, El Dorado, where we've been for a bit now, and now in Stuttgart.
Right.
So Scott Morgan who will be heading that up with Patrick Felke, and Scott's a longtime resident of Stuttgart, and Patrick's a native, so it just was natural for them to start working out there.
There'll be a little agricultural law and even more detail for PPGMR there.
That's right.
I want to talk data privacy with you today because I have been seeing a lot of requests for me to accept some sort of data privacy terms with a lot of websites that I've gone to and some things in my inbox. I think it all centers around something called GDPR, another acronym. You guys get to play in acronyms a lot.
I know.
What is GDPR and why am I just kind of learning about this?
Right. So GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation. It's a European Union regulation, and it just went into effect on May 25th, which is around when we started seeing this big flurry of all the emails in our inboxes. What it does is it's really a radical change in how businesses who target EU customers have to handle the data of who they're following. So if you collect any kind of personal information, not just names and email addresses, but cookies and device data, all of that information that has been really kind of passively collected. Mm-hmm. Now businesses have to explain in very clear language what they're doing with that information, and they have to get clear consent from the users. Are these
businesses that are European based? Are they businesses that do business with customers in Europe? Or why do I, as a person in Little Rock, Arkansas, have to deal with this?
Right. So anyone who's considering going international with their market, even if you haven't gotten to the EU yet, you really do have to start considering this now, because the data that's being managed, if you're not keeping track of what nationality your website visitors are from, then you could be caught up in the scope of this law. It's really anyone who's gathered any EU resident data whatsoever.
I know a lot of folks will look at this as a reaction to the Cambridge Analytica scandal that involved Facebook, but this has been in the works for several years, so this is not really the culmination of that necessarily. It just, the timing seems fortuitous.
That's right. I think, possibly if it weren't for the big Facebook scandal and Cambridge Analytica being in the news so much in the past couple of months, we might not even wonder what was going on with all these new policies, right? Just, seems like a flurry of activity, but I think in the U.S. market, we tend to kind of let these things click away and let's move on to shopping for clothes. But it's actually unrelated. It just happens that the news, I think, is probably getting users a little bit more keen to figure out what is going on with my data, and maybe I do need to read this, but it is hard to know, what is being disclosed in these policies. The EU adopted this rule 2 years ago. In April of 2016. And it was 4 years of negotiations among all of the member states, a very complex process. And the Europeans are very acutely concerned about their privacy in kind of a way that in the US culture we don't think about as much. Like I said, we like our convenience.
Right.
We like to click that button away and shop.
So what happens if I don't comply with their terms? Do I not get to access their site or do anything, or they just can't use my data?
There are some aspects of the rule of this regulation that would not allow, if you need services, wouldn't allow that data collection to be required to access the services. But in a lot of cases, if you're a company that your nature of doing business requires that information, then yes, you can create a checkbox and allow customers to go through after they've explicitly consented.
Gotcha. What do we see something like this taking hold in the U.S. at this point in time, or is it just still a wait and see kind of attitude? Or because I haven't heard a whole lot about it other than just a lot of bluster at this point.
Right, and it's a good question. I think what may happen is that now that users are seeing all this flurry of activity, together with the news that we've had with Facebook and all of the online platforms, that maybe users will start wondering, gee, what are these rights that they're getting in the European Union, and don't I deserve similar rights? But so far we haven't seen a lot of that activity. The way that we operate in the U.S. is under the Federal Trade Commission Act. And generally, that's just have a privacy policy to explain what you're doing. And as long as you live up to your own promises, whatever they may be, this is for common data, medical data and financial data obviously has a lot more restrictions. But as long as you live up to your promises, then you can do fairly well just being above board in the US. But this could change things. There's a lot of explicit things that companies have to do to allow a customer to find out what's happened to their data. And so that aspect, I think, might have consumers getting interested in what's going on.
All right, it's interesting stuff and something you should know a little bit more about, so be reading up on that. She's Amanda Denton with PPGMR Law Firm. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Good
to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, that's all for today's program. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.